Now, Issues and Attitudes.
And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Director at WEIU. We're going to talk about a time capsule at the Coles County Courthouse. Our guests today, Kirsten Bays and Carolyn Cloyd. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
We're going to move you a little closer, Kirsten.
Okay.
My co-host is Annalisa Haynes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Sporting her Bears shirt after the big win yesterday.
I'm very happy. Record-breaking.
There you go. All right, Coles County Courthouse time capsule. It was recovered in 2016, so let's go back to that date and talk about the recovery date and what they found inside it. So either of you can go.
Well, I just like this story. Judge Schick said that they were a little afraid that there was going to be a Geraldo moment because apparently there had been a reference in the newspaper in 1898 when this time capsule was put in the cornerstone. There was a reference about it in the newspaper, but that was kind of all they really knew. There was a photographer named, and I'm sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, to historians and his ancestors, Charles Gramesley, who had written in his journal something about having photographs in this time capsule, but that was kind of all they knew about it. So I think Judge Schick wanted to take this time capsule out when they were replacing the steps at the courthouse, right? And he had this idea, and so they were just sort of afraid of what they would actually find or not find in there. But there were a lot of items in there, and they were so well preserved. These people that put that in there did a really good job. So I think you have a list of items.
That's right. I do have a list, and actually it's really exciting. The items have all been photographed, and they will very shortly all be on the Coles County website with a description. And
great.
There's a lot of old Charleston families that have relatives that have pictures there or their businesses there, so it's a really neat thing. We were really fortunate in 2016 when we were doing the work at the courthouse. Cross Masonry was the contractor, and they volunteered to open the box. And so we didn't really have instructions on when it was to be opened. And like Carolyn said, we had no idea if there was anything in there. But we did have a big event. And the box was made of copper. It was only 12 inches by 12 inches by 8 inches. But there are 4 pages in the list of items. Things were just completely stacked tight in there. Lots of photographs, old school memorabilia. There was a Coles County history that someone had written that was in there, so it's really, really neat stuff.
And these things are all on display right now at the courthouse. Where and when can people see those?
They are. They're in a cabinet that was built to display them on the first floor, and the cabinet's not big enough to showcase everything, so we try to rotate the items in the cabinet. It's right on the first floor, so the courthouse is open from 8 to 4:30, and you can go in and see them anytime.
That is so cool.
What was there any surprising things or anything you're like, wow, I had no idea they would have kept that?
There was one interesting surprise in there. There was a check from a member of the county board, and I apologize, I forget how much it was written for.
$10,000.
Was it $10,000?
Yeah.
To help with the next remodeling project. And of course, the bank is no longer open, but it was very neat to see that he had left a personal check to help with things for Coles County down the road.
That is awesome.
What was really, it's a little morbid and very sad, but there was a photograph in there, and it was the crowd standing around after the last hanging at the Charleston Square. It was, I went back and I looked up the gentleman who was hanged that day, and it was just, that was shocking to me.
I didn't know we did that. That's
I know.
So cool.
We didn't do that.
The act isn't, well, the history itself, I'm a huge history nerd.
Yes,
so
yes.
anything like that is just.
So this was put in 1898.
Yes.
Correct.
So
yes.
it really was over the 100-year mark, right? Correct?
It was 118 years, yeah.
yeah.
It was placed in there December 26, 1898. So.
Okay.
With absolutely no ceremony or fanfare. It was just put in, and like Carolyn said, there was a mention in the newspaper, but nothing in the county board minutes, no
so when
ceremony.
they were just doing the stairs, did they happen to find it, or did someone know it was there?
We knew that it was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
We just didn't know if it would still be there,
Okay.
if it had ever been open or moved.
So how many hangings were there? We have to ask now.
That I don't know. And now, after this, I
We
will
have
go
to know,
home and I
yeah.
will check.
We will
but
need an email
it was,
tomorrow,
I
Carolyn.
looked it up, and it was
That's interesting.
it was a gentleman who had murdered someone from Cook's Mills, of all things. It was a very sad story. And
What's sad is that I know exactly where that is.
Oh, Cook's Mills?
I've been here for
Cook's
a little
Mills?
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a great
Too
store
long.
up there. You know?
we love people in Cook's Mills, just to be clear.
There you go. Now, so, and Judge Schick was hopefully going to be here today, but he obviously is he's probably in trial or has something to do with the courthouse, so he's a busy person. Other than the stuff that was in it, were there any other, what did you learn? I mean, in terms of the history, because I think that's what people like, things that you learned.
There were actually some pictures in there that no one had ever seen before of the demolition of the courthouse that was on that site previously.
Because
So
the one we have now is the third one, right?
Correct. The original courthouse was a log building on 6th Street, kind of down by the town branch.
Yep.
And then the next courthouse was on the site where we are now. So this is technically the third courthouse.
And so there's pictures of the demolition of the second one in preparation for the third one?
For the third one that we didn't know, had never seen. So that was really nice. And then that history that was in there also gave some details that we didn't know about the construction on the remodel of the courthouse.
So this has kind of led us full circle as you're going to do another time capsule, and December 1st of this fall, or this winter, or I guess it'll be fall officially, wouldn't it? So talk about December 1st and where and the details of that and what we can do to be involved.
Well, there will be a small ceremony. It's December 1st at 4 o'clock at the courthouse when the time capsule is placed back in the cornerstone. And we are actually soliciting items right now. We've got a committee together, and we've been assigned certain businesses or people or just ideas to pursue. And we're doing that now, but we do encourage the public to, if they have some ideas, something that's important, they think is important, to go in there. What I'm really excited about is we are working with 8th graders, Coles County 8th graders, to write essays about sort of like the day in the life of a Coles County youth, and we will put several of those in the time capsule. And that's I mean, how perfect is that?
What other things do you hope to put in there? Are there some certain things you want to put in there from the work you're doing?
Well, Penny Weaver, who's with the Journal-Gazette, she and her team, Penny's on the committee, so they're working to put photographs and I think stories, possibly, things, they're going to make suggestions. Clearly, they're out and about in the community and looking for things. We've gone to Eastern, we've gone to Lakeland.
Right.
Do you have?
Yeah, so
I mean, there's
another
so many
thing,
places.
one of the things that really spoke to me when we opened the time capsule was the high school students had put some things in there from each of the high schools in the county at the time. So we're also going to get copies of the programs from graduation this year, so that the kids that graduated high school in the year we placed it, hopefully some of them will be back at the opening in 50 years when they open the time capsule again.
That's cool.
That's what's really exciting, I think, is it's a 50-year time capsule. These kids could be there. These kids graduating high school or writing these essays could be there when that's opened up. How exciting.
Now, Lisa, you can come back for that.
Yes.
You can say, I was on a show with these three.
Yeah.
You'll be in it.
I know,
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm thinking of like homecoming, putting the 2018 homecoming coverage in there, and it's so cool.
There you go. Now, the funny thing we talked about off air is that we record this show and it airs on television as well, is a copy of this show, but I mean, the thought process is, what are they going to, will they be able to play it on DVD? Do we need a thumb drive? Or, you think about 50 years from now, how the world will have changed. Because the 1898 to now, it's crazy, but,
Well, and we've talked about that a lot, but I have to say, I've been encouraged with the return of turntables. I'm thinking that in 2068, I think DVDs will be back in.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
You never know.
When you think about the things that you're looking for, but somebody in the public has a good idea, what's the easiest way to get that stuff to you or to the courthouse or what?
I think that we have a couple of ways people could get that information in. One is they could drop it off at the courthouse and just put "Attention Judge Schick" on it, and it would go upstairs to the meeting room where we all meet for the committee for this. And it can also be mailed to my office, which is 1513 University Drive in Charleston.
Okay. Very neat. Let's go back to the original time capsule, because I know you had a whole list of stuff. Could you list a few more items that we could talk about that might be,
Sure.
thought starters about some things that were found then?
Sure. They listed minutes of the board meeting from the county board. Most of the civic organizations at the time, that they put something in there. Some of them put in their annual membership booklet. Some of them put in a document related to their mission. So organizations currently we're reaching out to, like here in town, the Masonic Lodge, various assorted civic organizations would love for them to contribute something because that was in there. A public school report was in there. It was interesting, the things. They had lots of reports and official kind of documents. Oh, one exciting thing, they had a ballot from that year's election, so we want to do that as well.
Yeah,
we want to put in a ballot from the primary this year.
That's cool. Things are going through your mind over there, history buff.
Well, I just keep thinking, I mean, there's just so many different knickknacks that you can put in, because you don't think about 2018 as being something that's going to be the past. I know that doesn't sound very literate,
no,
but
it makes sense, yeah.
But you know, you don't imagine that.
What will exemplify us in 50
Exactly,
years?
you know, so I mean,
Politic
of course
talk.
the wheels are turning, so you're definitely going to want to put in a ballot, because it's another election term, but oh my gosh, just thinking of the high schools, you know, it is Charleston High School, is it going to get bigger? You know, is there going to be more people? So there's just so much that you can do.
And the Cubs are in the playoffs. Maybe they'll have another World Series,
Right.
but then you never know.
Well, actually, that was mentioned.
Yeah.
Not by me, I might add.
I'm a Braves fan,
However,
so I hope not,
I am
but I
a
know-
Cardinals fan, so. But one thing I did was I went over to Booth Library because they did the Designs of Duty
Yeah.
display. And what's more iconic right now than tattoos? But in 50 years, who knows? So they very kindly made photographs of each of those panels and gave us
cool.
digital files. And that way we're going to be able to showcase those tattoos, but also those veteran stories. So
Right.
Yeah.
The flu, you know, you could do something, because this is the 100th
Anniversary of the
Yeah.
of the what?
The
epi-
influ-
the
yeah,
pandemic.
the
I couldn't think of the word.
epidemic,
We just
yeah.
talked to him last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
There's my memory.
There were
That's so
also a
cool.
number of newspapers in there, so we talked about how interesting that is because there were so many different newspaper publishers at the time.
Oh, really?
Coles
Here in
County.
Coles County?
And now I think we have 2. And the Daily Eastern News would be 3. So it's interesting to think about putting newspapers in and how would we pick the date for the newspapers that we put in. So that's something we still have to figure out.
Now, can you put stuff in the day of, or does it have to be sealed prior? Or how's that work? Or do you know
That's
yet?
a good question.
I don't know that we know yet because we haven't gotten that time.
Well, we need to put the
yet,
December
so-
1st
Right.
papers in there if that was possible that day.
Right.
But
That would be a
you may
good
have to go a
idea.
couple days early just for to, I don't know, to seal it or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, you said their box was relatively small, or their time capsules.
Right.
Now, have you guys picked out a size and for this one?
I believe it's going to be roughly the same size because of the opening in the side of the courthouse, but it's obviously not going to be made of copper now. It's going to be made of a different material. That copper box was sealed very tightly shut. When we had the opening ceremony, we thought it would just take a few little hits on that box to open it, but it actually took several minutes
Really?
to get it open. So it was well sealed, but we're going to use a different material, obviously, now.
And there's companies that sell time capsules as well. I
Correct,
would have never thought, but
There's
they do.
we have a committee member who's working on getting the box that makes sense for
So
the
it is
size.
going in the same place. You answer that question.
It will be,
Okay,
yes.
that's
And it's going to be a box that's not going to, so say, for example, you put in newspapers. I remember a couple years ago, it wasn't this opening, but they found one like underneath one of Stevenson or something like that. And unfortunately, there's water damage. So is it going to prevent that?
It will, right.
It should.
That's
yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, that-
And of course, sealed
Cool.
in that cornerstone. I assume that's what kept that other one so well. Because
Yeah.
these items, you just have to see these incredible. There's no damage to it.
That's
at all.
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I know there's
It's
rules too about
amazing.
what you. I mean, not rules, but things they want you to abide by. Just so some of the documents stay with no staples, no paper clips, no rubber bands, and how you how you stack stuff in there. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about the people that are on the committee? Do you all get do you get to put one of your own personal items in there, or something that just said, "Hey, we're here, so this is my knickknack," as you said?
Well, I don't know if we all are. I accidentally have one in there, so.
Accidentally, huh?
Well, I worked on a National Register project, and so I think it's going to go in there. So it will have my name on it.
That's cool.
But, yes.
I hope that we'll at least take a picture of those of us who served on the committee
That's
and
a good-
maybe
yeah.
just put it in there that we all thought this was really important.
We're talking to Carolyn, Cloyd, and Kirsten Bays, and a time capsule that's going to go into the Charleston Courthouse, or the Coles County Courthouse, excuse me, on December 1st of this year. I also want to talk a little bit about the history of the courthouse, because, I mean, you talk about the hangings and the morbidity of that, but there's also a history with Abraham Lincoln, and we're here in the land of Lincoln with being in the Coles County Courthouse. Now, Mr. Lincoln, President Lincoln, was not in the current courthouse. He was would have been the second and or the first two? Or
The second.
The second one only?
second,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Talk about that and the history of Lincoln here in Charleston.
Well, the courthouse was built roughly 1835. The second courthouse, it was a 2-story, 4-square, in the same spot where the courthouse is now. And that is where, when you talk about Lincoln history and his court cases, that's where he would have had his trials. The famous Matson trial was held there in
Yeah.
1847.
We're really fortunate. We actually have copies, original documents, and then some copies of the cases that he was on in Coles County. When Judge Schick became judge, he was very interested in that history part, and he actually found them in a file box in the basement. They had just
Wow.
been stuck in a file box. The Looking for Lincoln project in the, I believe, the 70s came through and took possession in the state of all things that Lincoln had signed. So the actual signed documents of his, this piece he signed, that piece is in Springfield, but they sent back photocopies of the signature pages, but the original court files are still here. And we have those upstairs in a new cabinet space in a jury room where people can come and do historical research if they would like to.
And I like how on the Coles County Courthouse page, it says, and Lincoln, he did okay. He didn't win. You would just assume that he won every trial, but he was really about a 500 lawyer.
He was,
right?
yeah. He definitely did not win every case.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
When you did the history and you did a little research, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, and I apologize. Other famous people that have kind of went through the Coles County Courthouse in terms of people. Obviously Abraham Lincoln would be number one, but any other history that you found is kind of interesting?
I don't know of other famous people. We do actually do tours of the courthouse, though. That the same day that we have the time capsule opening is the Charleston Christmas in the Heart of Charleston event.
Okay.
And we always open up the tunnel that is connecting the courthouse to the jail. And I think last year we had about 500 people that went through the tunnel. So that's really neat to see. People always think the tunnel was built to transport prisoners from the jail to the courthouse, but it actually was built to provide steam and power access to the courthouse because the jail had been previously built to the courthouse and it had its own power plant. So the cheapest and most effective way to have power at the courthouse was to build that tunnel. So at Christmas time, we take people down through the tunnel so that they can see the tunnel. And then we also give tours of the rest of the building a couple times a year, and it's really neat, the architecture. A lot of our courthouse has been preserved. We've got lots of original marble and woodwork, and it's really neat to take people around. They're always really amazed at how much original architecture is there.
Well, I remember when I'm sorry. go
I
ahead.
was just going to say the courthouse was designed by Cornelius Rapp of Rapp and Rapp. They were architects in Chicago, so.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When I first went into the courthouse, it reminded me of the architecture that you see in Springfield and in Chicago. It was awe-inspiring, for lack of better terms, because like, why does this exist here? You don't think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Well,
probably better. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not a famous person, but of course, when you're talking about the courthouse and famous happenings, you've got the Charleston riot that happened right there by the courthouse.
That's
So
true.
you know, that's a huge piece of history.
And Lincoln used to come back, but he did visit the courthouse, right? According to the history, and he visited downtown, and it sounded like he had a really good time downtown.
Well, I think the last time he came to Mattoon, I read this in the newspaper, and it just, it kind of amused me. It was after he'd been elected president, and he came back for his last, it turned out to be his last visit, unfortunately, but he came to town. He was going to visit with Sarah Bush, his stepmother, and he had come to Mattoon on the train, and the newspaper editor, I guess, met him and just said, well, but he's here to visit his family, so we're not going to bother him. Go figure. The newspaper said that. And he came here and he stayed with some people here in Charleston and, met with them and met with his stepmother. And, of course, it was the last time he was here.
That's cool. That's really cool. Now, this is probably mostly for Kirsten. The Coles County Courthouse, every building has its quirks. I mean, I know you could talk about the walk to the jail. Other quirks of that building that maybe the normal people, when they have to use it, are going in to get something done, but they don't notice. But, is there any, like, weird rooms that don't go anywhere or stuff like that?
There's not really weird rooms that don't go anywhere. There was an event at one point in time where parts of the bell tower collapsed into the center, so we had to have replacement tiles. A lot of people don't know that happened. We have you can see a long way from that tower. Most people don't get up in the tower of the courthouse. I've been told on a clear day you can see all the way to Ashmore. I've never seen all the way to Ashmore when I've been up there. But I've been told you can. It's really neat up there.
Do you give tours of that? Or is it too dangerous now?
It's too dangerous to take people up there.
There's some steep stairs.
Very steep stairs. Yeah. But it is a neat view.
If you're in the know, you
cool.
can get there. So, buddy up to Kirsten, maybe she can.
We do have a clock that works again.
Yes,
I grew up with that clock chiming, and then it broke, and so about 10 years ago, they fixed the clock so it rings on the hour and chimes, and that's really neat to see. But the courthouse is interesting. Like back in the day, there was an apartment in the courthouse. The caretaker lived there.
Oh, really?
At one point in time, there was a rifle range in the basement.
So there's the court.
Yeah, at one point in time, there was a dormitory on, I believe, the 3rd floor because people who came in to serve on a jury were rural, a lot of them, so they couldn't get back and forth to their farms, and they were all men at the time. So there was a dorm for them to sleep in up there. So there are some interesting little things. No hidden rooms, J.O., but yeah.
That's what you heard about, like it was the old Chicago Stadium. There's a stairwell they found that just went up to nothing,
Right.
and so I like it. If you could improve the Coles County Courthouse, is there something you guys, when you guys are sitting around talking or before a case or after a case, say, gosh, I wish the courthouse did this, had this, or anything?
You know what? I think this is an amazing building, and one of the reasons why we work so hard to give tours is we want people to see how amazing it is. We want to save this building and use it for its purpose forever, Jeff. It's really well functioning. Yes, it might be a little tight on space for a lot of the county offices. There's so many more offices now than there were when it was built. But as far as being a place to to do court and have court business, it's fantastic, and we feel like people just need to get in there and see how beautiful this building is.
There you go. It's always better to tour it than be
Yes.
be asked to come. Let's talk beginning of December 1st. Recap what's going to happen on December 1st, and then I want to talk about a couple other subjects with Carolyn here. So.
So on December 1st, we will have a ceremony, just a short ceremony, when we replace the time capsule in the cornerstone. So the public is welcome. We'd really like to have people there. Hopefully, it'll generate some interest in the courthouse.
Will Judge Schick be the speaker that day, or have you decided who's going to?
He will be. I don't know that there's not going to be long speeches, and I don't believe this is going to be a very long thing. I'm sorry, what's the...
Christmas in the Heart of
Christmas
Charleston.
That's kind of the celebration.
will be going on as well, and so we thought there would be a lot of people around anyway,
That's
and
a
it
good
would be
idea,
a good time to do it. So, people can just stop over at 4 o'clock and see the ceremony.
Will you put any new Lincoln documentation into the time capsule? Like, I know there's been a few Lincoln movies and documentaries. It seems like every time
We
things
hadn't
come
talked about that, but that's a great
up.
idea.
Hey, there you go.
And that's why we're here, to get ideas
Yeah, get
like
this
that.
in.
So, yeah,
I don't know, just thinking about that. I mean, because Lincoln is obviously the land of Lincoln.
But
and
we're not putting in that
Vampire Hunter?
Yeah,
No, that was
we're
terrible.
not putting that one in. No.
I forgot about that movie.
Or maybe you do and say, hey, this is what the world was like
Well,
in the.
That'll trip people up
in the
if they don't
2000s.
remember.
We're sorry. No.
There you go. No, this is a really dumb question, probably. But I mean, did you have to go search to find a place to go buy a time capsule? I mean, do you have to order it out of state, or how's that work? I mean, you just don't see Time Capsules R Us on the corner, so.
But you do see them all over the internet, because I was
Really?
researching them too, and I'm like, wow, there are lots of companies that do this. Who knew?
That's
So,
wild. Yeah.
So where'd you find yours? Do you know yet, or do you? I mean, you don't
it's
have to-
still being researched.
Okay, still being looked at.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
cool.
Well, I'm sure you have to factor in the cost, and that's always a fun thing
And
to try to deal with.
dependability, of course.
Yeah, and
Everybody
material.
says it's dependable, but is it?
There you go.
That's always the scary part.
Now, you're also big with the United Way. You are the United Way.
Yes, I am.
What do we have going on there right now? We have a few
Well,
minutes left.
our campaign is kicking off, and then on October 25th, we have our annual auction at the Mattoon Golf and Country Club. So,
Cool. Easiest way to get a hold of you, Carolyn?
yeah, you can call me. I have a website, so you can always email me that way. My phone number's on it, but my phone number is 234-8022.
There you go. And leave a message. She'll get back to you.
That's right.
Now, what about the historical district? You sent another email a couple weeks ago. I don't want to just throw this out there, but you're working on a Mattoon Historical District project,
We created, if you're familiar with Lumpkin Heights and Elm Ridge, there are two neighborhoods in Mattoon. And of course, Lumpkin Heights, there's the connection with the Lumpkins, of course, that started Consolidated. And they started this neighborhood back in 1915. And so some of the people that lived there approached a local historian, Steve Thompson, and asked about putting this on the National Register. So me being a history fan that I am, he asked me if I wanted to help, and so we actually created the document, and it is now on the National Register, as is the Burgess Osborne. Steve did that as well. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, a few minutes left. We'll ask some rapid fire, sometimes related, sometimes
no.
not related questions to the Coles County Courthouse or what either of you two do for a living, but we'll try to tie some things in, all right? Best thing about Coles County. We'll let Kirsten go first, and we'll just go down the line if it applies to, and at least you can answer too. Best thing
people.
about the people? I knew that you were going to say that, so you can't say
now,
the people.
See, she took my answer because I was going to say the people. I was just actually having this conversation with someone about how the people in this community care about everyone.
Charleston.
That's at least you followed the rules and didn't break it like Carolyn. Now, this is one of my favorite questions because favorite, since you're a lawyer or attorney at law, do you prefer which does it matter?
I really don't care.
Okay. Favorite legal or law TV drama of all time?
Oh, The Paper Chase.
The Paper Chase.
Barney Miller, because I've been watching it in syndication.
I don't know. I was thinking about the first question, and I'm going to change it to Coles County Transportation because they saved my butt when I was stranded at work. So, sorry.
Plug for Dial-A-Ride.
Just throwing that out there.
Unfortunately-
Dial-A-Ride.
The Practice would be my number one legal drama of all time, followed by Boston Legal. All right. All-time favorite police show, actor or actress or legal, any of that thing. So, actor or actress. Who?
Tom Selleck, Blue Bloods.
There you go.
Oh, she took my answer again.
Huh?
Oh, let me just go with Hal Linden then, because I'm all about Barney Miller
You are into
now.
Barney Miller. Wow.
I'll just do Law and Order.
Law and Order?
Yeah.
But you have an actor or actress, though, on this one.
Oh, I don't remember names.
Oh, you don't?
I can barely remember my grades and what to turn in.
Now, see, I was looking at Barney Miller, though, and police say that it's actually the most accurate police story.
Oh, it was gritty. It was so gritty.
Well, and because it's all about just the drudgery of being a policeman.
Yep. Steve Harris in The Practice, Eugene, the best portrayal. I just love that guy. He was great. Best thing about your job, Kirsten, is? Silence is bad in radio.
I don't know. Helping people make families.
That's
I work with such great people. I mean, our clients and our partner agencies, and it is nice to be helping people.
Writing.
ready. This one's pretty much only for you. Do people ask you for free legal advice when they see you out at the restaurant, ball game?
All
event?
the time.
Now, do you help them if you can, or do you say, hey, you need to call me?
I help them if I can, but because my practice is limited to adoption and reproductive technology, I get to pass a lot.
Oh, I forgot you were, yeah. Is there a mentor that any of you looked up to, like your teacher, school professor, or something?
My dad.
Dad?
My father.
My uncle.
Oh, got 3 different ones there, all right. How about your favorite musician and/or band? Who's that one? If it's on the radio, you can't stop, turn the car off until the song's over.
Luke Bryan.
Luke Bryan. Did you go?
No,
Didn't?
football season.
That's
so,
true. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Frank Sinatra. There's so many.
I have too many.
Last question. Will you dress up this year for Halloween 2018? And if so, what will you be?
Absolutely not.
Yes, I will. A World War II nurse.
That's cool.
That's great.
You are a history buff. I like
I-
that.
She is. History of Coles County.
I think we're going as the Addams family.
The Addams
So,
family.
it's kind of
That
up
is
in
a
the
good
air.
one. Well, it was
I
great.
hope you're Morticia.
I am.
There
I'm
you go.
Morticia.
Great.
Dylan.
Thank you both for coming in. Real quickly, if anybody wants to get a hold of Carolyn, Cloyd, or Kirsten Bays,
345-6099.
234-8022.
and December 1st, Coles County Courthouse, they'll be putting in the new 50-year time capsule that day, so at 4 p.m. that afternoon. So try to be there if you can. Appreciate you both coming in. It was a great show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is HitMix 88.9 WEIU.